Let's just go. I
Okay.
have no idea what's going to happen here today.
Neither do I really, but I kind of do. So we'll do it. We'll get in there. Catherine, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
I'm so excited. Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, me too. So before we get into all of these talents that you have, I want to know first and foremost, 5 years ago, this pandemic was changing everything. How did you
Yeah.
make it through the big pandemic of 2020, and how has it changed the way that you live today?
Yes. Wow. Isn't it interesting? The pandemic, it seems like ancient history in a certain sense. So you probably know I lived in Hong Kong for 35 years. We were living in Hong Kong when the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And when the other two pandemic hits, we were also in Hong Kong. So COVID, SARS, now um, the bird flu, we got to live through all of those. But we moved back to the States actually during the pandemic. We had a daughter at USC, we had a son in San Francisco who'd already finished college. And we thought if we're going to get stuck on a continent, why not where our kids are? So we came back. We're in Colorado now, which is where we've had a house all the years that we've been overseas. And we just came back. Yeah, it changed. I mean, it literally was a huge turning point for us. How about you?
You know, I have a son that's on the spectrum, and he loves school and baseball. And when it happened, it was March. I
Oh,
was just like, what are we going to
what are
do?
we going to do?
And I remember that I really amped up my interviews because I have a jazz radio show, and I have a stepdaughter, and Miles, he's 20 now. They would just come with me when I would do these interviews, and the
Fun.
musicians all have this strength and positivity about them. Even though we were going through all this
Have
uncertainty,
fun
especially musicians, everything melted away. But
for
it,
sure.
it was just one of those things where I felt like I got to amp this up. I got to stay connected. I got to keep doing things that are going to be positive. This is the only time that we have. So we can't say, oh, well, we'll just do what we can. You had to do I mean, it was life. It had a monopoly on you. You had to
Was
go forward.
absolutely. Our daughter, I mean, they started shutting the schools down.
Hmm.
So she was in LA at USC, came back here to Colorado. We have a guest house on the property. Her boyfriend was at med school at Boston University. They shut down also. So he was here too. We had like everybody doing virtuals, not just virtual school, virtual med school,
Yeah.
and studying for his biggest exam in med school is called the STEP.
Yeah.
And so he was studying for that, even though there were no testing centers open in America, and it wasn't clear how those first year med students or second year med students, can't remember, are going to be able to take that test. So at one point, he was going to have to drive to Texas to take the test because it was the only testing center that was open.
Yeah.
But by the time, it chugged along, there'd be one here in Colorado, and he ultimately was able to take it here. But it was kind of pins and needles.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this. There's so much that's going on with all of your titles and your activity. If we had to boil it down and put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day, and the kid in the back of the room is like, hey, what do you do for a living? What's your answer?
That's such a sweet way of putting it. I'm a child advocate.
Okay.
What I do is I help parents see their children beautiful no matter how diabolical their behavior.
I just saw a clip recently of Mr. Rogers on Donahue, and
Mm,
he said, what's the number one mistake that parents make with their
mm.
kids? And he said, losing sight of the fact that you were that age at one point in your life.
Good answer. Yeah. I think that's so good. Just being able to put things back into the context of what is life through this little person's eyes
Yeah.
and what are their capacities and their capabilities to be able to deal with whatever challenges are coming up for them. And usually parents are upset about skill deficits.
Yeah.
And, rather than seeing it as a skill deficit, as a neutral event, it's simply a skills deficit. It's not a bad kid. It's not a child who's trying to, get at you or manipulate you or all these kinds of things that I hear from parents. And I call it, the overall view is just a negative view of children.
Yeah.
And it's just that one tweak. If I had a magic wand and I could go around the planet, there'd be just one tweak and it would be able to put themselves, parents in the shoes of the kids
Yeah.
and see that they're just falling apart. Maybe it's impolite the way they're doing it. I call it the tragic expression of the unmet need. And it's tragic for everybody, including those around the person who's going through it.
Yeah.
But it's most tragic for the person going through it.
Yeah.
And we kind of get wrapped up in my experience of somebody else going through something difficult, as opposed to, wow, they're really going through a hard time. I wonder if I can help them out with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. When you were 12 years old, what was your dream job? What was the dream gig you wanted to have?
I was going to be the first woman president of the United States.
Okay. Did you get into politics? Did you go down any of?
I did a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I went to DC. I did the intern on the Hill one summer between I don't know, maybe it was my sophomore year and my junior year, or my freshman year in college. I went to law school. I mean, I kind of was on that track. I dated a congressman. I mean, all this stuff. And at that stage, I mean, we're talking like a long time ago.
Yeah.
Um, I was just turned off by self-interest. I
Yeah.
was like, so, we're going to make the world a better place. And if we all just recognize that we're just human doing our best, we care. I think we care about all the same things.
Yeah.
But it got really, I just had a really nasty taste in my mouth.
I think
Put me
that's
on
the
a
thing.
different route.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that astounds me about, and I don't want to get into a rabbit hole with politics here, but I think the thing that astounds me is that I don't understand why this country can't elect a woman and why we spend we spend all of our resources in this country. Women mainly raise the kids, right? Okay. So we're talking about the future of this country is all in control of all of the capabilities of a woman. But when it comes to running a country, we've had this aversion with two candidates, and I don't understand. And even with legislation that regulates women's bodies, which is the reason why we procreate, all of that is under attack. I don't understand this anterior movement, this like regression of progressive thought. I'm astonished that we can't get to a better place as humans in a democracy that's been around for as long as it's been.
I'm I was a poli sci major, history minor. God knows how we got where we are, Joe. All I know is that I have friends on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
I spent time as a Republican, and then I'm a Democrat now. I think about becoming an independent almost every day. And somebody who I really admire said, now that you're at this point in your life, maybe you'd consider going back and thinking about politics again. And I am actually. And just from the perspective of, I don't know, I think we've lost common sense.
It's turned into a reality show is what it is.
It
It's
really
all
has.
surreal. It's all
Yeah.
upside down. It's absurd. Bedside manner's gone. There's all of these things. You think about, you're in the position of helping shape and influence children. Nothing that's happening on the TV, on the news at night is anything emblematic of what we want children to emulate.
And I think most of America would agree with that.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that it's just the party politics. I've been teaching communication skills for about 20 years. And there's, a big difference between assertiveness, aggressiveness, passiveness, getting a message across, having impact. And communication is really a two-way street.
Hmm.
It's me being able to communicate effectively so you can understand what I said from the perspective that I wanted you to, because God knows that's a huge breakdown. But it's also me being able to understand you. We're back to the tragic expression of the unmet needs. So, with that example, parents usually are responding to the surface,
Yeah.
right? We call the presenting problem. They're just looking at what's being presented to them, and they're not happy about it. And then there are a lot of judgments of it being rude or inappropriate or disrespectful and all these words that it's a discipline and a practice to choose not to use your mind to go into the judgment,
Right.
to say to yourself, yeah, I've got all these negative things I'm thinking about you, and I could slime you with my judgment. Or I could take a minute to go, yeah, I'm really having an experience. It's not easy to be around these door slammings, kicking the dog, yelling words, obscenities, whatever it is. And to be able to not listen to the words people say, focus on the underlying unmet need, tune into what's behind the behavior as opposed to how it's manifesting. Honestly, these are not that hard to learn, right?
Right, right.
I mean, seriously, but yet putting them in practice,
Yeah,
it is not easy.
no, it's
Put
not.
it in practice. There's so much entrenched, habituated responses to the way we see things. And that's what we're dealing with. I mean, all of us are literally dealing with our own minds,
Yeah.
working it out with ourselves, having the conversation internally.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the number one, the silver lining of anybody that's in that any therapist that tells you the first thing that needs to be conquered, whether it's marriage counseling or individual therapy, is we are so hard on ourselves. And if
It's
we
so
get out
true.
of our way and give ourselves a little bit of grace, it kind of opens up this huge Pandora's box to miraculous healing to a certain degree.
And
And
it also gives us access to doing the same for others.
exactly, the empathy. So
Yeah.
let's find out how we got to where we're at right now. Take me back to where you were born and raised. What were these foundational seeds, whether it was family,
Yeah.
friends, and mentors, that were harvested into you?
I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
know. So when I saw jazz, I was like,
Oh,
wow,
are you kidding?
we're going back to New Orleans.
The
Okay.
cradle.
My mother was many generations of New Orleans, deep, deep South. My father was from South Dakota and Kansas,
Okay.
went to Kansas State.
Okay.
So they couldn't have been like more different. And yeah, my mom was a beautiful Southern belle who was very focused on what will other people think. And so that was kind of I would say the guiding light of the family. Well, what will the neighbors say? And I just remember thinking to myself, I don't know. I mean, like trying to get my mind into what other people are thinking about you.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder. I mean, if you want to look at the arc from there to, I literally preach on a daily basis, what other people think about you is none of your business. Like, seriously, we cannot lead our lives wondering about other people's impressions. I've got to be clear with me. I've got to be good with me.
Hmm.
I've got to be proud of me. Am I okay with how I showed up? I mean, it all has to be an an exercise in me knowing whether or not I have a value system that I'm comfortable with
Yep.
and that I'm living up to, but not the Joneses next door. So the gap between my mother, God bless her, I loved her to death, of course, you can imagine. We all do. And that's the thing is that our parents, I don't know, maybe yours as well, but I would say maybe, I don't know if we're close in age or not, probably,
Yeah.
that this kind of generation, our generation, has a lot more introspection about how am I showing up and what's your experience of that? And can you give me feedback
Yep.
than my mother's generation?
Yep.
And I think there was a lot of harm done. It was not intentional. God knows. I don't think anybody, the road to hell is paved with good intentions and no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of dysfunctional parenting and a lot of love and a lot of breakdowns. And the conscious parenting revolution, really, when I started to become the mom and I started to have my own children, and I needed to decide, like, who am I going to be in their lives and what are my foundational principles? And I'm not a believer in that approach, but I don't even know how to go about disciplining. It
Yeah.
was a search for us, my husband and I, to find a way to be present to these little human beings in a way that would give them the absolute best foundation in life.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the Gen X category, and, a lot of that generation was about waking up and getting rid of the old antiquated notions of,
Hmm.
just how you're supposed to live your life, be in bondage to a company for your whole life, and then
Mm,
finally when your body's broken down, you get to retire and
mhm.
do what you want to do. There was more of this notion of really grabbing today
Yeah.
and getting into it, traveling when you're young, doing things, experiencing the world. You'll figure out the money, you'll figure out. I mean, they're just, I mean, and even with parenting, like I know growing up, no one came to games. No one was there
Mhm.
for anything. I was home
Mhm.
alone after school. That like no one was around. And I think
Yeah.
there's maybe parenting today we're a little bit overly because of that, but I think being in our kids' lives is a priority like never before.
Mm. Yeah, my husband says, they never came to any of my games. Like nobody was ever there. It's just exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
He said I was, raised by benign neglect. I mean, everybody was nice. His
right.
parents were both PhDs. They were
Yeah.
very well educated.
Yeah.
But they weren't really that present. And I
Yeah.
think that, coming from Hong Kong, which is where we moved a long time ago. And I ran trainings in Hong Kong schools, expat schools, though,
Yeah.
for a really long time. There are a lot of expat families where one of them was moved. It could have been the husband, it could have been the wife. It's usually the husband. And the wife probably has an incredible education and may even have had a great career. And now she's mom. And so a very, very involved mom, and oftentimes to everyone's peril. And I've said to moms in Hong Kong, I think you better go get a job again because you really are too involved. Let them fall on their face, let them figure out how to stand up again. I mean, as much as possible, life is a great teacher. And it really is a wonderful way for me to remember to bring my homework when my teacher makes me stay in at recess and says, you're going to do it here. And as soon as you get it done, you can go out and play. And that's when I'm like, but I don't want to, I want to go play Foursquare.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll never forget again,
Yeah.
unless there are other issues. Of course, we're not talking about executive functioning skills and punishing kids that needed to have extra support, because that, of course, is a whole nother, ball of wax. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that there's a really fine line between figuring out how to be present and not over involved.
Absolutely. Who was that hero for you in your life? Who's been that inspirational force that's allowed you to be successful and evolve into who you are?
Well, growing up, my favorite musician was Barbara Streisand.
Okay.
And I saw a great picture of her in a hospital the other day. It was with a little 12-year-old who was terminally having cancer. And their one wish was that Barbara Streisand would come to the hospital and see them. And she
Wow.
somehow got wind of it and she went.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
So I grew up with Babs, and I loved her story. I mean, you probably know her story, of course you do, but you can't sing. That's where it started.
Uh-huh.
And she becomes one of the greatest female vocalists of all times.
Yeah.
My grandmother Gaga, who was just a bigger than life personality who always just had so much fun. And my dad, who used to say, you can do anything, and believed in me and believed in, his kids. And, dad was way ahead of his time. My dad was born in 1915.
Wow.
And, I would call him a women's liber. I mean, he wanted his kids to know, he wanted his girls to know. He had four of us. And he wanted us all to know there's nothing you can't do.
Yeah.
And I love you, warts and all. So you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that was very profound.
Yeah.
And my mom as well. I mean, my mother was elected to the Cherry Creek School Board, one of the most powerful school boards in the country. And her election and her winning, and she got death threats. And I mean, it was really powerful to
Wow.
see her take a big leadership role in the community. And I definitely gave me a big impression.
So, you're successful. I mean, to be on the stage as a TEDx speaker, traveling internationally, influencing parents, kind of changing lives, takes a lot of confidence to get to that point in your life? Has it been kind of woven from your parents into your DNA, or were there flashpoints? Were there moments in your lineage where you knew that you could do these things and you could continue to go on a path that was going to be successful?
I'm a Leo, so,
Yeah,
kind of a natural born leader, student body president. I think I was president of everything growing up. And so it was kind of in my blood. And I've also always had a tribe of phenomenal women friends. And, to this day, right? All the high school girlfriends get together every, few years, college girlfriends. I mean, I've just been really blessed to have a tribe of great friends.
yeah,
And I would say, it's the classic sort of just knowing that somebody's always got your back,
yeah,
that there are people out there who love you no matter what. And yeah, there are failures along the way. There are opportunities to, as I think, the great adage is that we learn more from our failures than we do our successes.
yeah,
And,
yeah. We do.
isn't that the truth?
Oh man. And if we would have known that early on, we would be like, what?
Oh
Why are
man,
we going to do this? Who threw me into this mess? Like
it's so
what?
true. But I'm remembering my dad had he was an entrepreneur and he had so many different businesses and many of them failed and many of them succeeded. And it was kind of rags and riches, although he had started out with a little trust fund.
Yeah,
And his grandfather was one of the original Ford dealers in America. And on his mom's side, they were the original. I don't know if you've heard of US Gypsum, but
yeah,
Gypsum Ford and all of that. They were
uh-huh,
one of the original families.
yeah,
So he had this real lineage of, I would almost call it like, God, American business in his blood. And growing up, it was really, I guess it was really a special thing to see him have ideas and then be able to create businesses around them, to watch some of them fail and see him almost not even blink an eye,
yeah,
not just be like, well, and you could see him churning on it, but it didn't knock him over. He always got back up
yeah,
and he just kept going. And somehow I learned about persistence and just recognizing I was a commodities trader for a while and I had a big deal in Russia that went awry. And I went to Moscow in 1992 to get my aluminum. It was 3,000 metric tons worth. It was a lot of aluminum. It was a shipload.
yeah,
And they defaulted. And I remember in me, there was this I won't leave Russia without it.
yeah,
It wasn't even like a possibility to go back without my aluminum. I had signed a contract, made a deal, had to deliver, and I'm not going home without it. So all I had was that single minded
mm-hmm,
focus
mm-hmm,
of I won't go home without it.
yeah,
And somehow I got to experience that intention really is the whole game
yeah,
and not letting any of the closed doors get in the way of staying. And after being there for almost 2 months, and millions of different, I hired a Russian interpreter. We got their version of the Yellow Pages. Every day we went door to door in search of aluminum. One day, some guy says to me, have you tried Krasnoyarsk? Trans World Metals is the London Metal Exchange arm of Krasnoyarsk, the largest aluminum producer in the world. Have you tried them? They're right here in Moscow. Next day, we go into their offices. They had 3,000 tons of aluminum arriving in Shanghai, which is where I needed it the next week,
wow,
exactly when I needed it. It was like a needle in a haystack. It
wow,
was, it was miraculous.
yeah,
But all I needed to do was stay single minded, focused, and not leave
yeah, absolutely,
and keep going door to door
yeah, that's
with
it.
my translator.
Persistence for sure. So I'm curious, speaking of overseas, what do you miss the most about living in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I was home for a long time.
Yeah.
And you know, when you talk about what did COVID do, COVID changed Hong Kong. It was a convergence of a few things. Xi Jinping came into power, and Xi Jinping is a kickback, if you will. I mean, he's a throwback to Mao Zedong.
Okay.
And it's extraordinary
Yeah.
because after Mao died, and I don't know if you know Chinese history very well, the Gang of Four,
Uh-huh.
and his wife, who was leading the Gang of Four.
Yep.
Anyway, Deng Xiaoping stepping in, the economic boom. I mean, all of this has been in the last 40 years extraordinary. I mean, the level to which China changed was unbelievable. And then we get Xi Jinping, who is a throwback to like a much more conservative, much more closed, much more um, Maoist approach. At the same time, you get the student uprising, which is trying to create more and more independence, freedom, and electoral vote. Because when the British left in 97, they created a document that was for 50 years. And over the course of 50 years, there was supposed to be more and more control handed over to Hong Kong. And in the meantime, Hong Kong was supposed to be completely independent.
Yeah.
So that was what was negotiated by the British and the Chinese. It was one country, two systems.
Yeah.
That was the motto: one country, two systems, and independence. That started being eroded big time.
Yeah.
So when the Chinese began to perceive through the inept leadership of Carrie Lam in Hong Kong that the student protests had gotten out of control because she poured gasoline on a fire and didn't know how to engage, they stepped in and brought the military.
Yeah.
At which point, it just, over the course of a COVID zero policy for 3 years, which wouldn't allow anyone into Hong Kong unless you were a citizen or you had permanent residency like we do, no foreigners, no one was allowed in the city for 3 years.
Wow.
So it destroyed the economy. It destroyed the real estate market. It drove business away. Most of the banks, the big banks, started moving their headquarters to Singapore. Singapore is now going great, great
Yeah.
guns. And we were faced with owning property in Hong Kong and recognizing that the market there was disappearing before our eyes. And it's a lot. I mean, the Hong Kong property at the time was the most expensive. Tokyo, Hong Kong, Singapore,
Mhm.
London, most expensive real estate in the world. So we decided something we would never have done was we've got to try and sell the house. And so the family home that the kids grew up in, that we've owned for 20 something years, um, we put on a market that was non-existent.
Wow.
No houses had sold in that part of where we lived in 2 years. And my husband's an architect, and we take really good care of our properties. And over the years of COVID, when we were away, we had a helper there. And we basically did everything that ever needed to be done. The property was in immaculate condition. It's the only property that sold
Wow.
in that area in 2 years.
Wow.
And the market is very weak, very depressed. I mean, and most of the expat community that we spent decades with together, they left.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
there are a few people, a few friends left,
Yeah.
which is, of course, what makes home home.
Yeah.
Home is really where you feel like, oh, call anybody, have lunch, grab a coffee, go out to dinner.
Yeah.
Those people, for the most part, are gone.
Wow.
I mean, we love Hong Kong,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely love it. And it was always going to be our, what we envisioned was we would spend our lives between Hong Kong and the US.
Wow.
And now it's much more, we still go back. We'll go back in a couple of months. We still have business and interest there, but it's changed forever.
Yeah.
It's unimaginable.
I had no idea. So, on this very long and interesting journey you've been on, of everything that you've accomplished and evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
What am I the proudest of? I mean, honestly, I think it's a relationship I get to have with my kids.
Yeah.
I have such a beautiful relationship with my kids, and it's such an open door. And yeah, I mean, I guess I'll throw John in there too, my husband. I mean, I just have a great family.
Yeah.
My little family that I had to be able to, nurture and cultivate. I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. I'd love, getting to play an important role in other people's lives too. And I'm really
Yeah.
proud of that. And, when somebody says to me, they'll enter into, I have a program, a 90-day parenting family reset program. And somebody will say, my son or daughter won't talk to me and I've been fired and I'm like dying inside because I'm so sad about it. And I'm like, it's okay
Yeah.
because we can rebuild the relationship.
Yeah.
And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, I am sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you approach this in a way that is sincere and you've changed the behaviors that activated or cultivated that distance, then yeah, people want to heal, I
Yeah.
believe.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's hone in a little bit further here. Everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that knows you, but you're in control. You run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are? Ah,
It's good questions. Have you ever done this before? Yeah. Who am I? I'm a great friend.
yeah.
I'm a excellent communicator. I am a force, and I will, if I set my mind on something, it will happen. And I just, I'm committed. I'm a committed human being. So a few years ago, when my daughter started at USC, for example, there was an active shooter on campus within a short period of time after she began. And these are kids who have never grown up in America. They grew
Yep.
up in Asia, no guns. It's illegal to own a gun. The only people who have guns are the police and an occasional person who slips over the border, possibly.
Yeah.
But it's just not a thing. It's not a thing in the community that they grew up in. Very safe. Kids are
Yep.
taking the subway at, like 10. And everybody feels okay about it. Similar to Japan, you've probably seen some of those things. Korea, I mean, it's just a very different ecosystem.
Yeah.
So of course they came back to America. They're American passport holders, but the and me included, like I had been away for at that stage, I don't know, close to 30 years. And the whole narrative had changed in that
Yep.
time,
Yep.
but it wasn't part of my experience growing up.
Hmm.
So this was my first encounter. My daughter, my cell phone, text message from USC. And I'm the one freaking out who can't reach her. And I mean, my experience of it was very different to people whose kids had grown up in America,
Yeah.
who had lived through Columbine High School school shooting,
Yep.
and all of the ones that followed. And I noticed that, wow, my alarm around this is much more elevated than other people.
Yep.
Because to me, and still to this day, this chapter in American history needs to be closed. This needs to be, it opened and it's closed. And
Yep.
we look back on it and go, God, that was a weird 30
Uh-huh.
years.
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't keep happening.
Yep.
So I decided, as a parent, we have to get involved. We've got educators, politicians, we've got healthcare providers, and everybody's concerned. It's not to say they're not, it's just that something's slipping through the cracks.
Yep.
Otherwise, why is this still going on?
Yep.
How can we put a man on the moon and not have handled this? So I spearheaded what at the time maybe still is. I mean, it was taking this issue on from the perspective of a parent, a concerned citizen, and bringing all of these communities together, the politicians, the mental health care providers, the educators, and the spiritual community
Yeah.
and the business community.
Yep.
And I think that's what made it such a unique event. It was a 3-day conference, which at the time ended in the largest meditation in US history and included all of the spiritual leaders so that everybody who identified being Muslim, being Hindu, being Catholic, being Jewish, whatever it was, would feel like, oh, I belong there.
Yep.
There's somebody from who's a leader in my community there. I belong there too.
Yeah.
and to have that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And, I think our plan was at the time, we were going to move this. I went to USC. I said, we need to do this next year at your school. And they said, all right, let's do it. And then COVID hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But just
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that mindset around, we don't have to hold an office.
Right.
We don't have to just put all of the trust that somebody out there is going to take care of this. I think
Sure.
actually communities
Yep.
and individuals in communities need to start learning how to be a team with
Hmm.
all of these different players
Yeah.
so that we can maybe shift the needle on some of the problems that are in our communities that are terrifying.
I agree. I absolutely agree. But there's got to be a mental shift. So let me ask you this. If anyone wants to reach out, they want to learn more, they want to see you speak, they want to hire you, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yes, go to freeparentingbook.com and you
Okay.
can get my Amazon bestseller, 7 Strategies to Keep Your Relationship with Your Kids from Hitting the Boiling Point.
Yeah.
So if you go to freeparentingbook.com, you can download that. I think will drop you into my ecosystem, but that is it's consciousparentingrevolution.com.
Okay. Okay.
And if you go there, we actually created a community inside so people can get support, not feel alone, and just feel like there are other people that go through the same things they do.
Yeah. That's the main thing. I will put these links in the show notes. What a breath of fresh air. Catherine, thank you so much for your
So nice
story.
to connect with you, Joe.
Yeah, it's wonderful to connect with you.